The internet feels open, but look closer and you'll see Google at the center of everything. From the moment you wake up and search weather today to that late night YouTube rabbit hole, Google is watching, learning, and guiding your every move. You're not just using the web, you're moving through Google's world. But Google isn't fighting alone. Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon all want a piece of your digital life. In this high-stakes tech war, every tap you make is a vote in a digital power struggle. Looking at headline figures, we get a hint at who's ahead, but the story is far richer and full of battles over products, data, and legal fights. We'll break it down by rivalry and even keep a running scorecard of who wins each round. By the end of this video, you'll see not just who won each round, but what these battles mean for your digital life. Ever wonder who really wins the search engine war every time you hit enter? Google's name is synonymous with search. Microsoft tried to topple it with Bing, originally MSN Search, but Google still dominates search with 90% market share. For every 100 searches, Google handles 90, while Bing and others struggle for crumbs. Microsoft has closed the gap in quality. Bing powers searches for Yahoo and performs well. But Google's lead is so vast that it's hard to imagine it losing. Score 1 for Google in the search engine round. It's 1 Google to 0 Microsoft. But in the cloud arena, the tables flip. Google Cloud Platform, or GCP, is a latecomer compared to Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS. As of Q1 2025, AWS still leads worldwide, but Microsoft's Azure, part of its Intelligent Cloud division, is solidly second. Google Cloud is third. Synergy Research reports AWS at 29%, Azure 22%, GCP 12%. These numbers show Microsoft winning the cloud war for now, and Amazon still on top. So the cloud round goes to Microsoft, and Amazon gets a point of its own in the overall web battle. The tension can be extreme. Recently, Microsoft even accused Google of shadow campaigns designed to undermine Azure and influence regulators. Google fired back by filing an antitrust complaint with the EU, alleging Microsoft forces companies into Azure through unfair licensing. In Washington, U.S. regulators are eyeing Google's dominance too. A federal judge has already ruled Google's search practices violate antitrust law. And the DOJ is reportedly considering breaking up Google. In this tech rivalry, each giant has its domain. Search, Google dominates, hands down. Cloud, Microsoft, and Amazon are leading the charge. And as far as the legal front, both sides are gearing up for war, with antitrust lawsuits and regulatory crackdowns closing in fast. If this is changing how you see Google, send this video to a friend who still thinks Microsoft can't keep up in this tech space. The battle between Google and Apple is one of the most dramatic tech duels. On one side is Google's open, ad-driven empire. On the other is Apple's closed, privacy-focused walled garden. Let's explore the classic product fight, Android versus iOS. Globally, Android runs on roughly 73% of smartphones, while Apple's iOS controls about 27%. In the US, Apple's market share is higher, but worldwide, Android dominates. That's a huge edge for Google in terms of sheer users. However, Apple's iPhones generate far more profit per device and lock users into Apple's ecosystem of hardware and services. Then there's Google Maps versus Apple Maps. Here, Google clearly won the early rounds. In 2012, Apple launched its own Maps app, but it was famously bad, missing cities, misplaced landmarks, comically warped 3D images. Reviewers watched the Statue of Liberty obliterated in Apple's Maps. Tim Cook even issued a rare public apology for the poor launch. In contrast, Google Maps improved steadily over the years and remains the gold standard. The Maps War scorecard, Google wins decisively. If there's one place where the battle gets personal, it's the software ecosystem. Apple plays gatekeeper. Its App Store rules and Safari browser defaults have triggered legal showdowns, from Epic Games versus Apple to EU scrutiny. But behind closed doors, something even bigger happens. Google quietly pays Apple billions each year just to remain the default search engine on iPhones. It's not public, it's not talked about, but it keeps Google right where it wants to be, in your pocket. On privacy, the contrast couldn't be sharper. Apple wraps itself in the cloak of privacy, forcing apps to ask for tracking permission and blocking third-party cookies by default. Google, meanwhile, is the data king. Every Gmail you send, every Chrome tab you open, every tap on Android, it's all fuel for their ad machine. So, who wins, Google versus Apple? On raw numbers, Google's Android coverage and its default Google services, search, maps, ads, give Google the edge in market share. But Apple gets points for user loyalty, design, and a premium segment. For the scorecard, mobile OS, Android, Google wins by volume. Ecosystem privacy, Apple wins on margins and control. Maps, Google wins. It's a split decision. Google and Facebook, now Meta, don't compete on exactly the same product, but they battle it out in ad dollars and data. Google grabs about 39% of digital ad revenue globally, while Facebook, Meta, gets roughly 18%. That makes Google the heavyweight in online advertising. Two companies also contrast in culture. Google's Sundar Pichai tends to stay low-key, even as he defends Google in court, whereas Mark Zuckerberg is more fiery, especially on privacy. Meta famously weathered the 2018 Cambridge Analytica scandal, exposing how 50 million Facebook profiles were harvested without consent. When it comes to privacy, Google's battles have mostly been with regulators. In 2019, the EU fined it €50 million for violating GDPR ad consent rules. And even more recently, a US court ruled Google illegally dominates online ad tech, potentially paving the way for breaking up its ad business. Both Google and Meta collect oceans of user data, but their rivalry is oddly quiet. Unlike the public clashes between Google and Apple, Google and Facebook rarely feud face-to-face. Instead, it's a cold war. Search and YouTube versus Instagram and Facebook, each fighting for your attention click by click. For the scorecard, Google leads in advertising dominance and search reach. Facebook leads in social networking and user profiles. It's another tie on our scorecard, with each powerhouse controlling a huge piece of the web economy. Google's other big foe is Amazon. In the cloud market, Amazon's Web Services, or AWS, is king. AWS holds roughly 30% share, far above Google Cloud's 12%. Microsoft Azure sits in between at 22%. So, on the cloud battlefield, Amazon wins, while Google and Microsoft are left fighting for scraps. Amazon also wins on retail. It has become the world's second largest search engine after Google, simply because shoppers search on Amazon first when buying. Google has tried to compete with shopping and buy buttons, but Amazon's e-commerce empire gives it an edge in online retail searches. In smart homes and devices, Amazon also has a strong lead. When Google launched its Home Nest speakers, it trailed Amazon's Echo devices. Globally, Amazon's Alexa Echo family still controls roughly 25 to 30% of smart speaker shipments, while Google's Nest and Home devices have about 20 to 25%. In voice assistants, Alexa and Google Assistant compete, but Amazon's head start keeps it slightly ahead in market share. So, in this duel, cloud, Amazon wins, Google loses. Smart speakers, Amazon leads, Google trails. Score another point for Amazon. Google dominates search, maps, and online ads. Amazon leads in cloud and e-commerce. Microsoft owns enterprise software and Azure. Apple controls premium devices and pushes privacy. Meta rules social networking. Each giant has carved out its territory, and none are backing down. From search to smartphones, cloud to social, the battles are fierce. Privacy is the next front, with Apple tightening control, while Google and Meta face heat over how much data they collect. No one controls the entire web, but together they shape nearly all of it. Who's winning? Well, that depends on where you look. If this changed how you view big tech, send it to someone who needs to wake up to these power plays. And don't stop here. Hit the next video, because what we uncover there will make you question the whole game all over again.